quietly nearby and letting it learn that you're safe. One of the simplest places to begin is with your body, because the body knows things the mind has forgotten how to access. Your needs often announce themselves physically long before they reach words, that tightness in your chest. When you said yes to something, that heaviness when you walked into a certain person's house, that flicker of lightness when someone canceled plans you'd been dreading. These are not random sensations, they're data. They're your truest self, the part that never learned to lie, telling you what it actually wants. For so long you've overridden these signals, felt the tightness and said yes anyway, felt the dread and showed up smiling. The work now is simply to start noticing them, not even to act on them yet. Just to notice, just to say internally, oh, there's that feeling, I wonder what it's trying to tell me. You're rebuilding a conversation with yourself that went silent long ago. There are some quiet questions that can help you find your way back. And I want to offer them not as a checklist, but as gentle companions you can carry. When you notice yourself feeling off, you might ask softly, what am I feeling right now, underneath the surface? And then, even more importantly, what do I need right now? Not what does the situation require, not what would keep everyone comfortable, but what do I specifically need? It's a question you may not have asked yourself in years. It may feel almost transgressive to ask it. That's okay. Ask it anyway. And don't worry if the answer doesn't come right away. Sometimes just asking the question is the whole practice. You're sending a message to the buried parts of yourself. I'm listening now. It's safe to tell me I want to know. I want to name some of the needs you might find, because part of why people lose touch with their needs is that they were taught some needs aren't allowed. So let me say them out loud, so you know they're permitted. You're allowed to need rest, even when there's more you could be doing. You're allowed to need space, even from people you love. You're allowed to need reassurance, even if you should already know you're loved. You're allowed to need help, even though you're capable. You're allowed to need to be heard, to need to be considered, to need time to yourself, to need things to be different than they are. You're allowed to need comfort when you're hurting, instead of having to be strong. You're allowed to want things simply because you want them, with no further justification required. Wanting is not a crime you have to defend in court. A want does not need a permission slip. I suspect some of you, reading that list, felt a little resistance. A little voice that said, but that's selfish, or, but other people have it worse, or, but I should be able to handle it myself. I want to address that voice directly, because it's the voice of the old pattern, and it will try to talk you out of your own needs every single time. That voice is not wisdom. It's fear wearing the mask of virtue. It learned long ago that having needs was dangerous, and so it disguises self-abandonment as humility and self-neglect as strength. When you hear it say, that's selfish, I want you to gently question it. Is it actually selfish to need rest? To need to be heard? To want a life that doesn't run on the fumes of your own depletion? Of course not. The belief that your needs are selfish is not the truth. It's the residue of an environment that couldn't meet them, rest of your life. Here's something tender I want you to hold on to as you do this work. When you start paying attention to your own needs, you are doing for yourself what someone should have done for you a long time ago. You are becoming the attentive presence you always deserved. Every time you pause and ask yourself what you need, every time you notice a feeling instead of overriding it, every time you honor a small want instead of dismissing it, you are reparenting yourself. You are giving the child inside you the thing they ached for. Someone who notices, someone who cares what they feel, someone who treats their inner life as something that matters. And that child has been waiting a very long time for that someone to arrive. It turns out that someone is you. You don't have to get this right. You don't have to suddenly become an expert at knowing yourself. You just have to start turning towards yourself with a little more curiosity and a little less judgment, again and again, knowing that the parts of you that went quiet will come back slowly in their own time, once they trust that it's finally safe to be heard. Rebuilding self-worth and self-trust. There's a wound at the very bottom of all of this, beneath the people-pleasing and the peacekeeping and the hidden needs. And I want us to go down to it now, because it's the place where the deepest healing happens. The wound is this. Somewhere along the way, you came to believe that your worth was conditional, that you were valuable because of what you provided, not because of who you were, that you had to earn your place at the table over and over by being useful, easy, agreeable, and self-sacrificing. And underneath all your giving, there's been this quiet, exhausting fear that if you ever stopped giving, you discover you were worth nothing at all. I want to say something to that fear, and I want you to receive it not as a nice idea, but as a fact about reality. Your worth was never conditional. It never depended on what you provided. You did not earn your way into being valuable, and you cannot lose your value by failing to be useful. You have worth the way the ocean has depth, not because it does anything to deserve it, but because that's simply what it is. Your worth is intrinsic. It came with you. And the fact that you were treated, somewhere along the way, as though your value depended on your usefulness does not change the truth of what you are. It only means you were misperceived. You were a whole, worthy human being who happened to land in a place that could only see your usefulness. That was their blindness. It was never your reality. Now I know it's not enough for me to simply tell you that you're worthy. If healing worked by being told nice things, you'd have healed long ago. Because somewhere in your life, someone has probably said kind words to you. The problem is that the belief in your unworthiness wasn't installed by words. It was installed by experience, by thousands of small moments in which you felt your needs didn't matter. Your feelings weren't welcome. Your value was contingent. And so it can't be undone by words alone either. It has to be undone by new experience, by slow accumulation of moments in which you treat yourself as though you matter, until your nervous system starts to believe it. Self-worth isn't rebuilt by thinking better thoughts. It's rebuilt by acting in small ways as though you're already worthy, until the feeling catches up with the action. This is where self-trust comes in. And I want to spend some real time here. Because self-trust is the foundation that worth gets rebuilt on. Self-trust is the felt sense that you will show up for yourself, that you have your own back, that when something inside you says, "This doesn't feel right," or "I need to rest," or "I don't want to do this," you will listen, rather than override yourself for someone else's comfort. And here's the hard truth about self-trust for people who've spent their lives self-abandoning. You have, with the best of intentions, betrayed yourself again and again. Every time you ignored your own needs to please someone else, you taught yourself, at a deep level, that your needs don't count, that you can't rely on yourself to protect them. So part of you has stopped trusting you. And that broken trust has to be repaired the same way any broken trust is repaired. Not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent acts of showing up. What does that look like in practice? It looks almost embarrassingly small at first. And that's exactly right. Because trust is built in small increments. It looks like noticing you're tired and actually resting, instead of pushing through to prove something. It looks like feeling a no rising up in you and honoring it, even just once, even in a low-stakes situation. It looks like keeping a promise you made to yourself, the way you'd keep a promise to a friend. Every one of these small acts sends a message to the deepest part of you. It says, "I'm listening to you now. Your signals matter to me. I will not abandon you the way